Welcome to DomiNations. My name is Mark, and today we have another layout video, yet about bases or one base with another slightly adapted variable or variation for at least global age, atomic age, Cold War age players, even above. But later in the video you will see and hear why it's primarily for global and atomic age players. Here we have the layout, but let me give you some obligatory information or some introduction, which I always give before I start with my videos. Is first about make sure that you have cleared your own forest in a square shape, at least in a rectangular shape, because otherwise you will get problems building your own bases and having good bases to defend enemies. Also, if you want to rebuild this base, I will now, within the next seconds, give you the opportunity with the original screenshots so that it is not that much confusing with all the radius and colors on the screen. So here we have the base layout in its very core. Now you are able to take a screenshot for yourself or pause the video just to rebuild it. We also have an alternative version of this layout, which is more for people which are struggling and want to defend more against commander attackers. Basically, the only thing what we have changed over here is we have brought all of the bastions some kind of more to the outer side, have located defensive buildings inside the bastions and closed them so that there is no entrance. Therefore, commander attackers will also very early, so during the early attack, have to crash those bastions, which they will do pretty often due to the fact that they are focusing for enemy defense buildings. We have at each side, so at 12, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, defense buildings inside the bastions, and the bastions are very outer side. So pretty early, if not in the mid attack, enemy commando troops will focus for these buildings, destroy the bastions and therefore slow themselves and other following troops down. So that's the alternative version, and that's the initial version. So now if you want to rebuild the base, just take one building, it does not matter what building, and take also the building which should be the center building for your base. In our case, it should be the town center, other buildings to locate the very center of your map. I prefer to take world wonders, but you can take each building. So first, take either the 12 or the 6 o'clock corner and locate one of those buildings in the very corner of your own map, so in the area of your own map which is already cleared, not square shaped parts and areas of your base are not mattering for now. So I took the 12 and 3 o'clock position. You can also take 6 and 3 o'clock or 6 and 9 o'clock. It's really important to have one vertical and one horizontal line. Now I have located those buildings in the corners, and I will prolong their lines, or the edges, better to say, to build a line with other buildings. Does really not matter which buildings you take. And now, if you have done exactly this, you are able to locate your town center in the very center of the map to make sure that you have enough space to rebuild the whole base layout you want to copy, and start rebuilding with focus from the town center, building outwards. So like I've already mentioned, and also like it's displayed in the video title, it's a layout which is fitting for global age, atomic age, as well as Cold War age players. And yeah, I'm aware in these ages you will have different amount of buildings, walls, gates, roads and traps. So this building in particular, or this layout over here, is built with an atomic age max set of buildings and traps, except for the rocket arsenal. So if you also have the rocket arsenal, you can just simply put one out of the towers, or another building just out of the walls, and locate your rocket arsenal with inside, probably even within the range of the Acropolis at the very left side, but that's another point. The point I wanted to mention, or I wanted to point out, is that if you are a global age player, you can just simply use this walls which are located very inside to make it more labyrinth-like, and use them to prolong your own walls due to the fact that you will have 2 less gates and 16, I think it's 16, yeah, 16 less walls, 1 less depot, 1 less redoubt and some less traps. So you won't be able to build exactly this layout in Global Age. Just simply use that parts of walls which are now used as some prolonging, for example in the inner side of the base, to make it at the outside longer. And probably you also have to put some buildings which are in this layout inside the walls outside, and just simply shorten down the outer arms of the spiral base. Oops, let's start right into the explanation of the layout itself. You see, it's a Worldwar layout. The town center is protected inside the walls. The resource buildings are mainly outside, so I definitely recommend it not for the multiplayer. Use it for Worldwar. We have also labyrinth and the spiral layout. Labyrinth layout means you have open segments inside your own walls, and those segments are intended to make enemy troops harder runways to steer and canalize enemy troops so that they can be fired and standing inside your own traps, so when they are bunched up, so that your traps have the maximum effectiveness against enemy troops, and also that rallying is making more harder to enemy troops because they will take routes and ways when you're rallying them, which are in some cases not predictable for the rallier, and so he will send some troops in the dead. Another point which is pretty important to this layout is the gates are mostly used in a useless way. So you can see the gates are used at the very end sides of walls, so where they have in particular no use, because gates are primarily for getting your own troops some entrances during the walls, which are only accessible for your troops and not for enemy attacking troops. But if you locate them at the very end segments of walls where the walls already ended, enemy troops, nevertheless, if there would be a gate or if there would be no gates, they would have to run around the walls. So therefore I decided to locate the gates over there to make it harder for enemy commando troops, because they can use gates as well as your own troops. And so in this way you make the way for enemy commando troops attacking your base longer, so that they need that they will need more time to approach to the very center and reach other buildings, which are probably very close to them, but nevertheless they have to run around the walls. Let's come to the defense buildings. We have located all of the mortars, like always, pretty inside the walls and in the very center of the base, but nevertheless not that close that they are able to being disabled with one sabotage. So you would have to use one sabotage for each mortar to sabotage it. Nevertheless, their ranges are crossing each other, so they have ranges or radiuses of shared fire where they can fire in, and they are covering the whole base, so there's no space inside the base which is not covered by the mortars. But mortars alone are pretty weak due to the fact that they are senseful with their splash damage against a bunch of enemy troops with low HP, but enemies which are single troops with high HP, such as generals and tanks, are really immune against mortars, and therefore you need the cannon towers. So additionally to the mortars, we have located cannon towers pretty close to the mortars. The mortars are not sabotageable, so you can only sabotage one at once and not two mortars with one sabotage, but nevertheless you can decoy them, and you can just simply trick them out with troops which have high HP. Therefore we have located the cannon towers in the very center and close to the mortars, so that in total the cannon towers are also having a shared radius of fire, or shared radius of fire, where they can protect the mortars. They have lower range than the mortars, therefore we had to locate them more to the outer side of the base. And the blue radius, you can see each blue radius is of one cannon tower. So mortars and cannon towers in perfect way can synergize to use their own strengths to protect the other building from its weaknesses. The cannon towers can protect the mortars from troops with high HP, and the mortars can protect the cannon towers from their weaknesses, so a lot of troops with low HP. We have located the towers right around, so that they are making some kind of synergy with the air defenses, so that we try to get the maximum air defense at each side of the base with some air defenses and or at least some towers. The redoubts, 3 of them, are located very at the entrance of the base, because most enemy troops will use those intended open spaces inside the labyrinth layout, and therefore they will run inside the readouts and harm themselves and others. We have the traps located at the very inner side and at the core of the base. You can easily spread them more out if enemies with scan and radar tactic are attacking you, so that they are not able to uncover that much Gesundheit, to uncover that much traps with just one scan tactic. And yeah, I've already talked or already mentioned the air defenses are also spread out in the very corners of the base. We have the spawning buildings at the very left side, mainly to get all of them inside the range of the Acropolis. And at least, let's come to the, yeah, we have also the stronghold located over here. You are able to bring the stronghold more to the outer side to make it harder for enemies to trigger town center, other buildings, as well as the stronghold with one decoy. And if you just want to focus for the mortar-like damage of the stronghold, you can put it more to the inner side. And let's come to the world wonders. We have the Acropolis at the very 9 o'clock position, so at the very left side, and the yellow arrows are marking which buildings are all affected by it. So we have one tank depot, which is very centrally located, which is not affected by the Acropolis. All other buildings are. Probably you can just change and adapt the layout to your own preferences by, for example, taking the first tank depot over here outside the walls, locating it elsewhere, and therefore bringing the Acropolis more to the 1 o'clock position, so closer to the tower, in which situation you will be able to reach even the last tank depot. Yeah, the Acropolis is pretty sensible located over here, I think, because even if you are destroying the Acropolis, the effect is staying active, and it will boost the enemy or your own defender spawn time and boost your own defender HP. Then also we have the Colosseum, but the Colosseum, in my opinion, is not that relevant. It's more offensive relevant due to the strength of the Gladiator, and at least we have the Versailles, also pretty strong and defensively relevant due to the fact that it's slowing down enemy troops and it can also not be destroyed. The building can be destroyed, but the effect cannot be destroyed, so you will have a permanent slowing down effect in a huge radius at the very right side of your own base. In total, I hope I haven't forgot anything. I haven't talked about the generals so far. The last thing I wanted to mention about this base layout is the 6 o'clock position, due to the fact that the 6 o'clock position can be really important in fights. I have chosen to clear one forest more in the 6 o'clock position so that I have more space to locate some buildings in, and I located the oil refinery in due to the fact that if you are now attacking an enemy, your own scroll bar at the very bottom of your screen is mostly hiding those buildings over there, so enemies are not recognizing them, ignoring them until the end of the fight, and in some fights they will cost the enemy valuable seconds, if up to 30 seconds. In a pretty low percentage of situations it can even cost the enemy the victory, due to the fact that there is not enough time to get 100%, so the enemy is missing about 1 star, just simply because he or she ignored and did not see the building in the very 6 o'clock position. I have also located some walls even over here in the bastion, but that's not necessary. In most cases enemies are using their planes to get rid of those buildings, and then walls and bastions are not bringing anything, are not having any use and effect, but you can use them at the 6 o'clock position. If the enemy has not any more planes, it will make them a hard life to take those buildings out. In total, I hope this video was informative for you. Give me a hint below in the comment section whether you think it's sensible to make the base layout videos like in previous times with those radius and those colors to mark the radius of all buildings, or whether you think it's not sensible and more distracting or confusing due to the fact that we have a lot of colors on the screen. Initially I told you there is one major aspect why this layout is more about global age players, at least probably atomic age players, to rebuild, and this point is about the radar or the road bonus. So if you are in the atomic age, reaching it, you are able to research in the library that you are getting the radar bonus, which is increasing the damage by your towers, cannon towers, air defense, mortars and redoubts by about 15% if they are connected via road to the town center. And yet obviously this is a layout I started building in the global age, where the radar bonus did not make any effect, where it is no point. And then I emerged with this account to the, or this account emerged to the atomic age, and nevertheless the layout got used. But to implement roads inside this layout would completely make it a new layout, and you would have to create a new layout. So far I have no new layout or no kind of this layout with radar and road bonus connected, and therefore it is a major point that this layout is nevertheless really good, and using it during the last 9 months showed very good results. But nevertheless, including the radar bonus inside to this layout with some sufficient road connection would definitely increase the use, and therefore the recommendation is more about global age players than atomic or even Cold War age players, if you are not adapting the layout to get some more road bonus out of it. Yeah, we'll see us soon. Your domination tips.